Hello, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Anita Veszeli. And Anita is you're in Stockholm at the moment.
I am.
And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about social media and social media maturity of organizations, which is something that really interests me. So I'm really glad that you could come and talk about it, Anita. Before we start getting into any questions and stuff, where can people find you?
First of all, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
I'm really passionate about maturity and assessments. I just really love it. But people can find me on LinkedIn. I also have, I'm trying to be active on Twitter as much as I can, and also on Instagram.
And you have you've created your own hashtag, haven't you, on social media? Because I've seen you using it on Twitter as well as on LinkedIn. So what's that?
It's hashtag social Anita.
There you go. So if you want to follow Anita, then all you need to do is find the hashtag. So you work for Erickson.
Yes, I do.
So how is it that you've got to the point where you are, where you are a big advocate of social media? You're working for a large organization like Erickson. You're working on a transformation to make it into a social organization. So social as in someone that's using social media strategically. What's your journey?
It has been an interesting journey, and I thought it could be also inspiring for others, because sometimes when you see brands who are really a social business or they really embrace social, it can also be demotivating that, oh my God, I'm a one-person band and I need to do everything. So how do I get there, and how do I drive the transformation? Because I think most companies, social media managers, are really overwhelmed and they are expected to do everything, which is obviously it's not the case. So my journey was that I took on this position in 2017 when the title was really intriguing, which was Global Head of Social Engagement and Advocacy. I still had to think about it because it was a super long one. It's just like, but what it really meant, it was me, myself, and I.
Right.
So it was like really ridiculous, because you have the global brand accounts, plus you have employee advocacy, and all the things that you would need to do, and it's just impossible. And that's when I started to think that, okay, how can I make the case that, we need to change ways, and we need to build a team, we need to build a proper function. And that's when I turned to an assessment that I need to know where we are and where we want to go. How do we compare to other companies in this journey?
So that's about getting an as-is position where you are, and then to be, and then measuring that.
Exactly. I think it's... I always think that personally, or as an organization, you always need to know where you are, where you would like to go, what are the things that you want to develop. And of course, when you are at the beginner stage at this journey, there are tons of things that you need to put in place. So I think the assessment also helps that, okay, this is my next step. How do I get there? What are the key initiatives? And you might gonna get recommendations or opportunities, which are like 10 to 8, which is also kind of like impossible to drive all of them.
Yeah.
So then you need to make priorities. That what are the top 3?
Yeah. What are you going to focus on? Yeah.
Exactly. What makes the biggest impact for the organization? What is also supports the business objectives the most, and or what is the demand from the organization? Because if you can find other business areas, market areas that they are pushing for the same thing, of course you team up in an organization, and it's easier to find budget, project managers who can help you to drive that.
So where does a person start? So you went into this role in 2017. You had no budget, no resources. You didn't have any guidance, I'm guessing, of what the priority was. Where did you start, and what did you do?
So what I did, I mean, of course, social existed, and it was growing organically. and people were in place, and different business areas, market areas, there were things in place. So of course, like an editorial calendar, but
Okay, yeah.
as a big company, I don't think that we are the only one. There are always reorganizations, and you also need to see that how does that change, and whenever you centralize and then decentralize and you come back, and it keeps repeating like every 6 or 4 years, depending on an organization.
I've worked for one of those organizations. Yes,
it's always fun, right? So,
it is. Yes, yes.
and I think it's just like in social, you constantly need to adapt, evolve. It's a roller coaster. Sometimes, when you drive all those changes, usually they are for the better, or at least they are with the best intent, and you just need to work through how to make the best out of it. So what I did, I was actually lucky because I didn't have to do the assessment myself. I've done it previously in one of the business areas where I was working. It was kind of like a self-assessment. So if anyone is searching for social media maturity assessment, you can find different versions. I think they are, in principle, they are kind of like similar. There are slight differences or how they name the different stages. But I was actually lucky because our social media management system is Hootsuite, so they provide this service as an add-on to their partners. So it was also great that it's not me who's doing this assessment, but you have an external party who does different interviews across the business. They assess the information and they come back that, okay, this is where you are. They also provide a benchmark towards other companies within your industry, so you can see how you compare. And they also give recommendations that, okay, the next stage, if you focus on these 5 to 8 different principles, then you are able to get to the next stage.
And I think it's really important that you have that comparison, isn't it? Because it's all very well measuring something, but what is it that, what's the comparison to the, and so is that just to companies, or is that to industry as well?
It's to industry as well.
Okay, fine, great.
For Erickson, it's telco, and I think it's a telco benchmark. So obviously within this industry, we don't have quite a lot of companies to deal with, but it was still really useful. And I think it was also really, really powerful to show it to the marketing and comms community where we are. Also, it was fueling the strategy, that this is the business strategy, and how do we get to social business, which was in 2017, was like, what is she talking about? So it was a long journey, but with the help of social maturity and doing it every year, focusing on those 3 to 4 main priorities, we were able to get to the leading stage by 2020.
Okay.
The team also grew from me, myself, and I, from 1 to approximately 10, which is not full-time employees. It's a mix of full-time employees and freelancers. We also built competence within our internal hub, who are supporting us with community management, that we are always on, we always reply to incoming messaging. So it has been a long journey. And I think that's, for me, sharing this with others, that, there's hope. And if you can provide this year by year, there is likely that people are looking into it. Okay, how can we evolve? What are the same things? And you can bring the whole social media community across business areas, market areas together. It really helps and supports that. And also to get leadership buy-in, that, you need to grow the team, you need to have budget in place. And it also helps you to create that overall social strategy, which is not just marketing, but the whole company strategy.
Yeah, I want to come back to that in a moment, but it's about that. I'm just summarizing. So that's about getting the measurement, and that measurement as well on a yearly basis, so that you could actually say, we've either progressed or we've not progressed. In your case, you progressed, and then you're able to actually go to leadership and say, I either want budget or I want more budget.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you see this because one of the things that I think that a lot of people suffer from in most organizations is that social media is seen as being, posting pictures of your lunch and cat photos, and people are just playing on it.
Mhm.
They're not working if they're on social media. They're just playing. And I think people then, therefore, the leadership have difficulty understanding that there's actually a business imperative, and then to put the budget behind it. So how was it that you were able to put the budget and then the resource behind it? Because it's kind of, budget and resource are kind of two different things, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean that there were times when I had a budget, but I didn't have people who can actually make it happen.
Okay.
And they were like, "Do you need more budget?" I was like, "No, I don't need more budget. I need more people."
I need the headcount. Yes.
Exactly, because the team is overwhelmed. They are getting to a point when it's burnout, which is not good for the company, and that's not our culture. So we need to have support. And this is, I think, when it comes also like the future of work, that how can you bring in freelancers to help you, to support, who have the right knowledge, what you exactly need, and help to build different projects, have different perspectives, different from different industries. So I think it has been a really, really amazing journey. And as you said, based on the priorities, you can choose the different 5 or 3 to 5 things that you're going to focus on. Then you can also make it clear to be able to do that. This is what I need. And then, of course, you start to take the discussions that what options you have to have a full-time headcount, to have consultant in the meanwhile, until the headcount process is never easy and all those discussions. But I think it's besides the maturity assessment, of course, the pandemic accelerated, not just at Erickson, but at every company, that social is a non-negotiable thing to do.
Yeah.
And I think there are so much research, conversations just went on social. There are tons of research showcasing that companies with a social CEO are outperforming companies who don't have social leadership. How do you keep contact with your customers, with your peers? How social media could also be used for learning. Each company wants to attract the best talent. Being social or thought lead and participating in conversations also helps you to attract the best talent, because that's also a proven strategy. So I think whenever you build that based on the maturity, I always put in that, okay, what is happening in the market? What is the latest research that I can put my strategy together, or the focus areas for the next year, based on facts and figures?
Yes, I totally agree, and I think that it's really important that you measure it, and then you've got the ability to actually show the progress as well.
Yeah.
So what is it? You talk about social business. What do you mean by about social business? Because sometimes, when we've talked about social business in the marketplace, people think it's to do with non-for-profits. Whereas people then you then talk about what it's about digital. And then, but everybody talks about digital transformation. I mean, every single supplier's doing digital transformation. So what do you mean by social business?
What I mean by social business is, for me, the digital transformation is really tools, that you have the right tools in place, that you integrate those tools. People can work remotely from their home or wherever they are. You can access the systems, data flows across the systems, and you can make informed decisions. For me, social transformation, when social is built into each of the functions at an organization, when you build a culture that each employee, regardless they are top executives, sales, marketing, recruiters, talent acquisition, or work in R&D, they feel empowered to take conversations on social, to build their influence, thought leadership, and be part of those conversations, connect with external experts, not closing or shutting down. It's also when you strategically use social for each of those functions to attract new talent. How do you do that? How does that support you? You want to do social PR or digital PR. How do you do that in the best way? How do you be part of conversations and your company is visible, building brand trust? And at the same time, it also means that for the leadership, you can clearly show that this is what our social impact is on social media, and how does that reflect back to the business strategy, and how did you support that through the different social media elements.
And I think that the empowerment of the people is so important, because, you know, I work for organizations where if you went onto social media and you made any comment, you were fired. And then the next day they said, no, we want you to go onto social media. And it's like, it's very confusing for people, because it's like, oh, yesterday you were going to fire me. Today you're not. What is it? And I think that people are very, you know, people may be quite happy on Facebook, but when it comes to LinkedIn, it's kind of quite scary, because what happens if I say the wrong thing? But actually standing up and empowering people and saying, this, it's okay. We actually want you to do this. We think this is a great thing. That's for an organization is actually a very mature thing for the organization to do.
Thank you. I mean, I remember, I think it was 6 or 7 years ago when I worked in one of the business areas, and it was really amazing because that business area had like 50,000 employees across the globe. And that time we were having these discussions that, oh my God, and you know, they had employees usually below 30. They are on social, so we're going to stop. I was like, you cannot stop them. They're going to use their mobile. So what you can do is I can enable you that what is okay, what is not okay, and you can help them, because we, at Erickson, we have our code and business ethics, and each employee is expected to live by those rules whenever it's in real life, on social. That's kind of like the culture that we want to cultivate. So if you just comply with those social media instructions, which is a group instruction at Erickson, so not just guidelines, it's a higher hierarchy, then you are fine. So don't share internal information, be respectful, be kind, always try to be positive, and act with integrity. So pretty much these are the basic rules. And after that, it's really up to you. We want to hear your voice. You are not a spokesperson for Erickson, but you can still speak. You are a human being. And we want to know that what you are thinking, and if you might have a different opinion, what you can bring to the conversation.
And it's about, you know, this is what good behavior is, and this is what bad behavior is.
Exactly.
So where is Erickson going then? Where are you going to go? What's the point that you're kind of aiming for?
Now it's our strategy that we want to become a social business by 2025.
Okay.
So we have done the assessment for this year, but we haven't seen the results. So that's going to come like in 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm also excited that did we, you know, progress or not, what happened.
I'm sure it will be progress, Anita. I wouldn't worry. Yeah, you won't have gone backwards. I don't see very many people investing in social business and actually wanting to overtake you. So not yet.
But it's not me, it's a team. There are a lot of people who are working towards the same vision and strategy. And within that strategy, of course, we know that there are different elements where we also need to measure the progress, because you need to have a strong governance in place, ways of working, that everyone knows within the company if they are responsible for social accounts, how to deal with that. If they are doing paid social, what is the structure? What are the best practices? What is the bare minimum? Which agencies do we work with? Then you have the social media architecture. So many brands have way too many accounts out there. Some are opened up by their enthusiastic employees or employees who left and they are abandoned. We also know cybersecurity or impersonation is getting more and more serious. Do they have brand protection and cyber security in place within the organization. How to look for impersonated brand accounts, or even for your top executives. How do you secure those accounts with two-factor authentication? How do you manage access to each of your branded accounts and ad accounts and the different tools? So it's a specific area. Then you look into employee advocacy. And for that, you need to have a community. You need to have really great content that also fits with the different internal personas. You need to have training, e-learning, a mix of e-learning, coaching, master classes, different sets of training and enablement in place to make that happen. Then you have influencer marketing. And in B2B, that's also something different than what we are used to. And when you get also to another maturity level, then you start to connect your internal thought leaders with the external experts, so they can create content just like you and me do now.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then, of course, the measurement. So you need to measure each of those programs separately, but at a really mature stage, you're also able to connect each of those dots and to show the full impact of all your activities, what you do.
Fantastic. So we're at the 20 minutes, Anita, but I want to ask you a question about, yeah, I know it goes very quickly. I know it does. But, you know, time flies when you're having fun. One of the things that you're a surfer.
I am.
So how did you get into surfing?
It was when I moved.
Because you live in a, don't you come from a landlocked country or something?
I do.
Yeah.
I never thought I'm gonna surf. I was an inline inline skater when I moved to Texas.
Okay.
Because there was no ice, so I had to adapt. And when I started to work in Sweden, I got a really cheap ticket to go to Hawaii. So I spent 5 months in Hawaii. And what do you do on the North Shore? You learn how to surf. And I got hooked.
Right. And now it's a big passion of yours, isn't it, surfing?
Yeah, it is. It is.
We were talking about it just before we came on, about how you were looking, because I just got some sun, and you're looking to get some sun and go surfing as well.
Yes, I do. And actually, I think it was a couple of months ago when I did a blog that, wow, how social media and surfing, what are the common things? I don't think that too many people can relate, because if you're not a surfer, then it's hard to relate to that one. But I'm just like really amazed so many times whenever you go into the water, the landscape is changing. You have different weather conditions. Social is the same. You never know what's going to happen. Is it a social unrest? You need to deal with crisis. So you just need to go with the flow. And you also need to learn that what are the things that you can do, and when do you respect, and when you just lean back.
But it's
and
about.
wait.
But we were talking, weren't we, earlier, before we came on, about the fact it's being with nature,
yeah.
And that feel of. I mean, I just love the sound of the well, you said the ocean, the sea, you know, and that sound of the waves. It's just, for me, it's just a wonderful, relaxing sound. I've always wanted to have a house or something by the sea where you hear that you can wake up or go to sleep to the sound of the sea, you know.
Me too. Well, what I did, because it's a tip for you. I have two solutions. One is I have a sleep app, where I can put on the sound of the waves, so I fall asleep for that. And I also have a smart lamp, which has the red light in the evening with the sound of the waves, and in the morning it wakes me up with the blue light and the sound of the waves.
Fantastic. I have to look for one of those. And Anita, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us, and sharing your expertise about social media maturity and maturity models. It's a fascinating subject, and I mean, you know as well as I do that this is going to become the norm for business.
Yeah.
And will be over the next 10 years, where this will be just like the audit that you get from your financial auditors or something like that. I'm surprised it's actually not already within an audit within, you know, the KPMGs and the PwCs and that, probably because they don't understand social media. But
Forrester also has a social maturity assessment. It's kind of like a social operations.
Okay.
So I think that model also really works, but there are also some free resources. So if someone doesn't have the budget, but they really want to get started somewhere, if they search for social maturity assessment, not just social media marketing, because I also don't like it. Social media is not just marketing.
It's social. So they need to search for social media maturity assessment.
Yeah. And I really don't want to mention brands, but it's quite easy to find the different ones. And Google also, I checked it a couple of times from different browsers. So you will also see free resources when you can just fill it in and you get a snapshot where you are.
Okay, brilliant. Anita, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And give my love to Stockholm.
I will.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.